Today's episode of Real Talk Christian Podcast is sponsored by the Christian Standard Bible. The goal of the CSB is to be faithful to the original languages without sacrificing clarity, all while maintaining both accuracy and readability. With the beautiful designs and multiple study Bible options, everyone from adults to teens and even children can find a CSB Bible that they enjoy. Learn more at csbible.com. Again, that's csbible.com.
Welcome to Real Talk Christian Podcast, where we drink coffee and have real conversations on faith, culture, and society. I'm your host, Chris Fuller.
And I'm Marc Hyde.
And on today's episode, it's a little bit more sombering of an episode, but we're going to talk about the abuse of faith scandal. Is this the end of the SBC? I don't know. We're going to go find out. Marc, you ready to do this?
I guess let's go.
Let's go. Marc Hyde.
I just realized your little stool with your bubbly drink over there is in the shot.
Oh my goodness gracious, great gravy.
No, man, this is to be honest with you, an episode that I knew that we needed to do, but it's not really one I want to do.
It's gonna be
with you.
It's gonna be
just
difficult.
being honest,
and it's hard to be like let's jump
get
into
pumped
it and
up
be
about sexual abuse
Let's
scandals.
just get giddy about it. And it's hard to joke around. It's like, man, this is so sombering and it's sad and upsetting, and people are mad and hurt and grieving and all the things.
Well,
and
if you want to joke, I'm looking at my hair in the YouTube. If I take off my little headphones, I have like weird headphone hair, so that's something to laugh about.
This is why I wear the hat.
There you go, because you don't have to mess up that little hair you got up there, right?
Yeah, the little bit. Actually,
so are you going to grow the Jesus hair back out?
No, probably
Are you
not.
done with Jesus hair is done?
It's going to get cut here very shortly.
Wow.
Next couple
you're
weeks.
officially old.
Well, no, it's not old. It's
we'll let the Facebook peoples decide.
It's just what if I'm old or not?
Yeah.
Listen, I'm the same age as Jesus, so 33, bro. Same age.
You know how crazy is to think about how much that man did in 33 years?
Yeah, a lot. Well, in 3 years, jeez. We don't have much of the 30 years but prior, but 3 years.
We got them 3.
Well,
goodness, man. So to be honest, I don't know how else to transition. We don't have a lot of banter to talk about. Except I'm going to try to
just jump into the.
I'm comfy right now. I'm crisscross applesauce.
You are.
Because you can't call it Indian style anymore.
No. All right.
They call it crisscross applesauce.
We're going to do the Would You Rathers tonight.
Ooh, okay. We're going to do some Would You Rathers.
We're just going to just kind of dive into those, and then we'll do the...
You know, I just realized we haven't done Would You Rathers on Instagram in a while.
I know. So
I used to do that every Saturday morning.
Yeah. Would you rather have your own private jet or have your own private island?
Oh.
I'm going with the island.
Do I have to pay like extra things to keep them running?
Well, yeah, you got to do maintenance and gas and everything.
Right now,
else.
I feel like private island is a better one, and then I can turn it into like a resort spot and make more money off of it.
Well, then you got to spend money to make money, but you could do the same thing with private jet.
I think I do my own island. I think I do my own private island too. Yeah, what people saying?
68% said private island, 32% said your jet.
That'd be cool, you know? Like legit, have your own little part of Hawaii that's yours.
I would have an
Fuller
island, and then it'd be like, I'm an island boy.
I'm an island boy. I just saw another video of them where it's like, which one of you is more disappointment to your mother? And he couldn't even read the sentence, and he goes, "No, that doesn't even make sense." And the guy, it's one of those like remixes. He goes, "Dude, you can't even read your own. Like, you can't understand your own words." But yeah, I'm an island boy.
Okay, we're not gonna read that one because would you rather kiss a girl or kiss a boy? Well, I think we both
I'd
would
rather
rather
kiss my wife. I'd rather kiss my wife.
Okay, would you rather be born with a giraffe neck or be born with an elephant trunk?
Give me that giraffe neck so I can finally be tall.
Give me the trunk with the power.
Really?
Yeah, I'm going with the trunk.
Where you can like whip people around.
Big nose. Whoosha, pa, pa, pa.
Okay, so
yeah, I could be my own personal sprinkler. You know, that's how they wash themselves.
It is. So here's a real question: if you have a elephant nose, okay, let's dip into this. If you have an elephant nose, an elephant trunk,
Sure.
Would you no longer need your hands to feed yourself? Like, could you literally just sit there, be legit lazy as all get out, and just use your nose to swoop and eat, swoop and eat, swoop and eat?
Would I have a bigger craving for peanuts and peanut butter?
What?
I mean, I'm already the size of an elephant. You know, it's funny that.
But what happens if you have a peanut allergy?
It's funny that these skinny guys like, I want to be a giraffe and have a long neck, and the fat guy's like, I want to be an elephant. Give me that food, you dude.
Dude, I think I would go with a giraffe neck. To be honest with you.
59% agree.
Except,
with
how
you.
would I eat? How would I get food up there, bro? Would I be able to?
You gotta eat the trees, man.
Would I be able to like scoop it down and be like how would that work? Got a big old tongue? Do I get a tongue with it?
Popcorn's out of the question. It gets stuck in your throat.
No. I could toss it and play the game.
No, the kernels would get stuck in your throat. You wouldn't be able to swallow.
Goodness,
okay. So 59% say be born with a giraffe neck.
Because we're right.
49%.
Giraffe necks is right.
41% say.
All right, what else we got? What else we got?
Last one. Eat everything you see. Lick everything you see. I am closing my eyes from now on.
I mean, Evie and Lucy already lick everything that they see, so it's just kids are gross, man.
Okay, but they don't lick everything they see, right? Like, think of bathroom time, right?
Oh, no.
They don't lick or eat everything they see.
That's the weirdest question ever. I'm just going to go with lick because I don't have to actually eat it.
I'm going to go with if I'm a blind person, I will lick.
I'm just going to say lick because, like,
we're gonna go with
I don't
lick.
Eat everything. It's just going to be high 70s.
64% say lick, 36% say eat. Okay.
Wait, can we do one more? Because that was just weird.
All right. Oh, see, we went too far. Now there's a commercial.
Ad.
Hang on a sec.
2, 1.
Skip video. Skip video.
We are a high quality show.
We've already done this one.
We have?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, geez. I didn't see it. You laughed and pulled your phone away too fast.
It's hard to even say. All right. Would you rather be the ugliest person in the world or be the second ugliest person in the world?
Be the ugliest or the second ugliest?
You can be like, I'm ugly.
Well, here's the deal. Right. But if you're, think about it. But if you are... But if you get the Ripley's, believe it or not, ugliest person in the world, we're talking that you can get some commercials. You could be involved in because that one kid does that weird
the question is
thing. He's like in music videos now. Like that dude's freaking rich.
But would Beth be with you if you were the ugliest person? Right?
Probably not.
But
if you're the second, you get no recognition that you are the ugliest.
Yes, but when people go, oh, golly, you're ugly. And you'd be like, yeah, but I'm not the ugliest. So let me show you a picture of my friend.
So here's the think about this. If we answer differently, if I'm like, I want to be the second, but you say the first, that's me saying I wish you were the ugliest.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, second. 76% agree with us. Be the second.
All right, but rock, paper, scissors. We gotta do it right now. Who'd be the ugliest? Winner gets the second.
Oh gosh.
Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. You ready?
All right. One time, rock, paper, scissors.
One time.
Shoot we go.
On shoot. Whoever wins is the second. Whoever loses is the ugliest. Wow, I noticed I just have a really bad farmer tan right now.
All right. All right, let's do this. Rock, paper, scissors, shoot. Dang it. Dang it. I'm making all the money.
Did we just peak the system? We might have just, if we blew your eardrums out, I'm so sorry. But you are officially the ugliest person in the world.
For our listeners, I lost. All right. When it comes to rock, paper, scissors, shoot, I suck.
And I won't tell you my secret, rock, paper, scissors.
But he licks, so whatever. Anyways. Yeah, you wait half a second before and watch me throw. Oh, okay.
No.
What's your secret?
I always throw scissors. I just throw scissors. I always throw scissors.
I throw random, but typically I probably throw more rock. But I was like, no. See, I'm going to throw rock. He's going to throw paper, so I'm going to try to tie him here.
Nope.
And you threw scissors.
I always throw scissors.
Anyways, okay, let's the coffee. We drank coffee earlier. We drank
all of it. We drank the whole thing, bro.
We drank the whole carafe full of it. Right now I have some pineapple coconut bubbly.
I didn't want the
and
burps.
An aqua. And so
what is that? No, what is that aqua? Like, did you put like the lemonade squirt like
no,
it's
it's the electrolyte replacement shake packs from Walmart. It's a great value.
Yeah. So we were getting really into those like the liquid flavor.
Yeah, well, see, I do these because they're full of electrolytes, and I've been working out in the heat, and so help replace my electrolytes.
Working out in the heat, or you've been working
in the heat?
Out in the heat.
Out in the heat.
Oh, okay.
So.
I just got that all new water, bro.
So yeah,
courtesy of Janelle.
Thank you, Janelle.
Anyways,
so we got a review. It's a really short one. No coffee, but that's all right. We can still have a good time. You want to read this review?
Sure, I'll read. So this comes from May 5th, 2022 from Hail 25. I don't know what Hail 25 means.
Hail 25. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I don't know what.
I don't know.
Haley? Maybe Haley?
Maybe. Maybe Hal.
Oh, yeah, but my husband.
Oh,
I got the gender right. Ladies and gentlemen.
But it says love it.
So love it. 5 stars from Hale25. It says, my husband found your podcast and he told me about it, so I decided to listen. This happened at a time where I was telling myself I need to get closer to God. I'm glad he found this podcast because it has helped me. So Hale25, send us a message or an email or a text message and let us know your deets so we can get a mini swag bag in the mail to you. What?
Time out. Your what?
Your deets.
Your what?
Your deets.
Speak English.
Your details? Your mailing address?
Oh, okay. So I wasn't sure if like you forgot how to speak or like you're having a stroke or what. I just wanted to make sure you
Nah, bruh.
understood the English language.
Nah, bro, all good. You're the one out here doing I'm an island boy and then making fun of me. Jeez, I don't even know, man. I don't.
That's about the only part of the song I know is the Island Boy.
You know,
But I don't even know how to transition.
I kind of want to transition, not transition. I want to transport to the time when those like kids were like 90 and we go, what were you thinking?
Then they're going to go, I'm an Island Boy.
Island geezers. That could be a funny trend. That'd be a funny montage of someone like I'm an island boy and I'm an island geezer.
I'm an island grandpa.
Like that. Like they just have a grandpa like dressed like them with the teeth. They just totally roasting it. I'd be here for it.
That'd be funny.
But we're not supposed to judge others, so let's.
We talked about that 2 weeks ago. Anyways,
all right, let's jump into this one, man.
This one's a rough one. All right, so we've had some fun, but it's time to get serious. So as many listeners probably know, and maybe some that don't, a report came out at this point, it's several weeks ago, probably a couple months ago.
No, we have to say while we're recording, the SBC convention is just wrapping up.
It's just wrapping up today, I believe, right?
I think so.
And Scott,
today.
Scott, my pastor, your former colleague and pastor, is out there with his wife. Yeah, your boss. Your old boss.
It was in Anaheim. They drove to Anaheim.
I know, it was funny because you called and then I called them right, like literally
back
minutes
to
after.
Back. And thankfully, I got them first.
Yeah, and put him in a bad mood. Anyways.
It wasn't my fault. But we called in Amarillo, Texas. He was Amarillo, Texas.
We were sitting on Sunday and he's like, yeah, I called him. He was in Amarillo, Texas. I said, hey, I called him and he was in Amarillo, Texas. What time did you call? Oh, we called like literally back to back.
So anywho, but yeah, so Scott and Laura were down in Anaheim. Yep.
Yeah, so this conversation is pretty hot off the press news right now. Of this 205, I believe it was, page report. Yeah, 205 page document with over 700 entries of cases of sexual abuse and sexual misconduct in the SBC, which is the Southern Baptist Convention.
And actually, just to correct that, it's not just SBC names, because even
right.
Pastor Scott from First Baptist Hammond.
Right, it's Baptist. It's a Baptist convention.
It's a Baptist
but
list.
it's the Southern Baptist Convention, right?
Right, and they had the list, and there are other names.
Yeah. So even some non-denoms are a part of this convention.
But anyway, there were 700 cases and entries. Yeah.
So I'm just gonna read. So. I believe it was the Washington Times. I'm trying to remember which newspaper came out, but it was called the Abuse of Faith Report. So I'm going to read a little article from the Guardian, and the whole article will be in the show notes. But I just wanted to pull this little excerpt out. Sorry, coffee burst.
That was a nice little hiccup there.
So what is the Abuse of Faith Report? The issue at hand is the release by the SBC of a 205-page document naming hundreds of Baptist leaders and members accused or found guilty of sexual abuse of children. The list, which it's more than just children, it's all sorts of sexual abuse and sexual misconduct. The list, which includes 700 entries on cases between 2000 and 2019, was released after a bombshell third-party investigation by Guidepost Solutions said that convention leaders in the executive committee failed the public and its community by mishandling sexual abuse cases and mistreating victims and survivors. The article later on goes on to say that the initial report was released after a 7-month investigation that revealed 380 leaders and volunteers in the SBC have faced public accusations of sexual abuse. It said that the SBC's general counsel and spokesman had kept their own private list of abusive ministers, and the leaders of the SBC executive committee had focused for decades on trying to protect the SBC from liability for abuse in local churches. And again, that was the title of the article from The Guardian was the U.S. Southern Baptist Churches Face Apocalypse Over Sexual Abuse Scandal.
Yeah, and if you don't mind me letting add into this a little bit,
Go ahead.
And I know we're not going to get into that report a ton tonight.
Yeah, we're not reading all the names.
You know, and there's two quick things. One is J.D. Greer, who was we talked about him last week,
right?
With Beth's question. He was the former president.
You mean this question?
Yeah, that question right there. We're keeping that over there. Not for this week. But J.D. Greer, he has his own podcast called Ask J.D. Greer Anything, where they asked him about the question, and he answered it just on his own for about 25 minutes.
Well, okay, and just to preface that, J.D. Greer used to be he
was president.
The president of the SBC.
Yep. And so if you're not familiar with the Southern Baptist Convention, how it works, the convention truly only exists like 3 days out of the year when the convention comes together as what we call messengers, which are the people from the local churches come together, and they can bring things to the floor, and they vote on things as a convention. It's not a top-down run. It's actually bottom-up run.
It's an autonomous church.
But you have to have people in place to do the different things. So the executive committee is a handful of leaders that were voted on, and that's their job, is to literally take care of the ins and outs of the convention throughout the year, because there's still stuff that has to happen. But the president, his job, he doesn't get paid to be the president. It's more of just a SBC pastor who's elected by the people to be the president. And normally the president gives like the direction and the focus and the mission of, not the mission, because the mission doesn't change, but the focus of here's what the SBC is going to be focused.
Like this mission
One life
right
at a
here?
time. Well, no, that's Southside's mission. However,
right, but didn't it come from, oh no, that was one person.
yeah, so our Southside was all about one life at a time,
right,
since way before I showed up to Southside. But back when Johnny Hunt was the president of the North American Mission Board, which his name came out in this, and that was a big blow to the SBC. He had one life at a time.
Right.
And like, who's your one life? Who's your one life?
I think.
Who's your one life? And that was part of an SBC initiative. But J.D. Greer was elected president. He was president for, I think, 3 years. It was supposed to only be 2, but then COVID was kind of a bonus year for him.
Sure.
And so all of this stuff started surfacing when he was president. He said, we need to focus in harder on this. So he did it. So he was involved. He was the president of the convention when the messengers voted on they need to start researching into this. So he's not the president now, and he was not the most recent president, but he was president when they announced that they are going to do this, and the actual churches voted on a $4 million movement to figure out what's going on with the sexual abuse stuff. And so it was the most... all the red tape was gone. They had Guidestone had open access to every little detail, and no one could say no. It was a really cool thing. But on his own podcast, Ask J.D. Greer Anything, he talked about for 25 minutes of what actually it was and why does it matter and how should we think about these things.
I'll drop that link to that because you said it to me. I'll drop it in the show notes. And there's another
one, though, that I should send you because it was actually Preston Sprinkle on a different podcast I listened to called Theology in the Raw.
Yeah.
And so Preston Sprinkle is a great theologian. He interviews people all the time. He actually interviewed J.D. Greer, and they talked for about 50 minutes about this topic. So if you want to dive into the topic,
I'll drop them in the show notes.
We'll drop them in the show notes because that will explain what they actually, all the ins and outs, because we're not going to go into all the ins and outs of the podcast.
Yeah, I mean, the whole focus of this episode
of the report
is not going to be focusing so much on the SBC, right?
Right.
That was just quick little history lesson. But why are we talking about this on the podcast? Well, you and I actually belong to part of the SBC, and I'm assuming, maybe wrongly, but I'm assuming that there's a lot of listeners that are probably
part of the SBC.
Their church is probably part of the SBC, yes. And so because of the affiliation, because it is making headline news, I've had actually non-saved people bring this report up in arguments now, especially because right now, data recording, we're in the Pride Month still. And they'll be like, well, how can you guys say you're loving and you guys got this, you guys are totally against gay people. And, oh, by the way, you got over 700 sexual abusing ministers and leaders in your convention, and look at Christians. So it's something that needs to be addressed, right?
Right. Yep.
And who is Marc, Hyde, and Chris Fuller? We're just a couple of guys from South Bend. I mean, our voice, though we're reaching out to many people across the world, in all honesty, we don't mean a whole lot. We just trying to bring Jesus to the subject.
Right.
So.
And then, the circle back a little bit, which actually is the perfect transition for my second thought is the reason why this report is such a big deal is it's not so much that the SBC covered up 700 names and they're also active in church, but they literally, the executive committee had this list and they were advised by lawyers to basically just sit down and shut up. So when victims came forward, they didn't handle those cases properly. And then when people were abused, they didn't give public knowledge of all of it. Now, everyone on that list they're not on the executive committee now. They have no leadership in the SBC at all. And I would say probably all the pastors that were actually accused of sexual sin, brought to the court, they were found guilty of this list. So it's not like the SBC was covering up list of 700 people. Right. It's more the fact of they cared more about saving their own jobs saving face of the SBC. Yeah. And no, we just need to keep the main thing. Let's focus on evangelism. This will take away and hurt the name of the SBC. But they cared more of the name of the SBC and the mission than the victims. Sure. And that's kind of where the issue comes from.
And that's kind of where we want to really dive into is some of that stuff today. So first question is should there be transparency in the church when a grievous sin is committed? Now, should the church be made aware for, Mark, you spit in somebody's face. I don't think so. I'm just trying to think of the most ridiculous, super grievous thing.
But there's people who sin against people in the church all the time.
All the time it happens. And all the time. Does the church need to be made of every grievous sin? No, because there should be you should always try to handle it at the lowest level, right? The lowest level being you and your brother.
Right, and between one another.
Right, and Matthew 18:15 through 19 says, if your brother sins against you, go tell him his fault between you and him alone, right? If he listens to you, you have gained a brother. But if he won't listen, then you take one or two others with you, so that by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses, every fact may be established. If he doesn't pay attention to them, tell the church. If he doesn't pay attention even to the church, let him be like a Gentile and a tax collector to you. Truly, I tell you, whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Again, truly, I tell you, if 2 of you on earth agree about any matter that you pray for, it will be done for you by my Father in heaven. For where 2 or 3 gathered in my name, there I am among them. So I just wanted to lay that structure out for. Right, so there's a process and a procedure that Christ lays out for us, and so how should we handle sin in the church? I got a nice little great article from gotquestions.org.
Man, we love that place. We love that place.
They're such a great resource.
Not sponsored, but we love that place.
Yeah, so they say, the first step in handling sin in the church is for someone with knowledge of the situation, often a pastor or an elder, to confront that person in love, expressing concern and explaining the spiritual ramifications of if the sin continues. If the sinning member refuses to repent, a second step must be taken. The one who originally confronted the person needs to take along another godly, I'm thinking they were meant to say people. It says godly people, and visit the sinning member again. The presence of others may serve to induce the sinner to repent. If not, there are witnesses to all that is said and done, preventing any false claims or denials later. The interview needs to include scripture-based reproof and opportunities for restoration, which we talked about, right? And the judging verses such as 1 John 3 through 10, 1 John 5:18, Luke 14:25 through 27, Matthew 7:16 through 23, and Ephesians 5:3 may be helpful at this time. If after the second step the church member still refuses to repent of the sin, Jesus says to tell it to the church, Matthew 18:17, which we just read. An action that would bring even more pressure to bear. If that fails, then the offending member is to be removed from the church and considered an unbeliever. See 1 Corinthians 5:9 through 13. The process shows the seriousness of sin in the church and the need to strive for reconciliation. The steps that Jesus outlines to protect the purity and reputation of the church should not be sidestepped or ignored. So, should there be transparency in the church when a grievous sin is committed? Yes and no, right? There's a process. So, there's a process of how we deal with things, and sometimes dealing with things is you turn yourself in, right?
Right, and we're talking about grievous sins here.
Sins.
But this is where I think, this is the appropriate response to go to someone who has sinned against you.
Yes.
And where I think the church fails oftentimes, which we've seen this with so many different issues over the years, is the fact of the church takes this and does this process with every little thing. And there's sometimes when this is all that needs to be done. Like okay, for example, having an affair is not illegal.
Right.
Like, you can't go to jail for having an affair.
No, but it's a grievous sin.
But it's a grievous sin. However, a sexual sin towards a minor or
needs to be addressed,
or a killing or,
yes.
grand
That's
larceny, all
different.
these different things, know, and even like for me, when I was a youth pastor, I had to learn this, where if a teen came to me with certain information that put themselves or another person at harm, I had to legally tell their parent within 24 hours.
Yes.
And if their parent didn't do anything with it,
Yes.
I legally have to report that to DCS.
So again, here comes, right, where we tie in the Romans 13, right, of where there's a governing authority over us that we need to obey, right?
Right.
And so the governing law says, hey, this type of stuff needs to be reported, right? And there's a procedure behind it, and we need to follow that procedure. And so, does it need to be made known to the church in a grievous, say, sexual child abuse?
100%.
It needs to be dealt with one-on-one and with the authorities, right?
Right.
And then made known that, hey, this has gone on, right? In my opinion. And not because that person is unrepentant, because maybe they are repentant, but because the church needs to be made aware for protective purposes.
Right, but I think we miss a step there. And this is where the first reporter comes in, where like let's say, for example, like a teen came to me,
Sure.
right? And like I'm not a youth pastor anymore, right?
Sure.
And a teen came to me and told me information that was not okay.
Sure.
And my job is, I can't sit in the, okay, well, let me just get people in the church involved, and we're going to take care of this matter internally, especially like with sexual abuse, right? No. And like if a teen came and say, hey, I'm in this and this is what happened to me. My job isn't to confront that person one-on-one and then bring another person. That's the way a lot of the church does it, and they keep it internal.
No. Yeah,
and
right.
They bounce around.
Right.
It's literally, and this is where most churches screw up, is this is where DCS comes into play, where you tell the authorities, DCS doesn't want bad things to happen, but their job is to look into it and figure things out.
So here's the thing, right? So if your brother sins against you, right, you're to go do it. So
right, this is a sin against you.
So if you've been told of a sin, right, say a teen came to you and confided and told you of a sin, say a sexual abuse sin, right, a child, a minor. It is your job to go to that person and go, okay, you screwed up and we're going to the authorities right now. You can turn yourself in. Because if you don't do it, I'm going to place a call right now. And that's a pressure, right? You're giving them the opportunity to do the right thing. And then after that, no, you got to do what the government says, right? You got to turn it in, right? And it's got to be.
And see, I would skip that and go right to the authorities, to be honest with you.
Well, yes, but you need to verify too, right? How do you know they're not lying?
That's what DCS's job is that's why they have the investigators to look into it.
Okay. But I still think it's our responsibility to deal with the brother at the same time. It can be both done simultaneously.
To be honest with you, I think it's the difference with different sins. Like, so for example, like, if someone sinned against me, like like if someone slandered me or came after me or treated me wrong or said something, it's my job to say, hey, this is what happened. We need to figure this out. But when it's involving a kid, it's not my job to, oh, well, you sinned against this person, so let's figure this out.
No, it's not a figure it out. It's a
boom, boom. I'm calling. Like, we have to get the authorities involved.
No, it's hey, you're going to call or I'm going to call, but I'm giving you the opportunity to do the right thing and call right now. And I'm not leaving. I'm going to call and wait for them to come, but you're going to do it or I'm going to do it, and we're going to do it right now.
Right. And I would just make the call.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't. I'd go to them and say, hey, this is going on, and I know about it because I want them to know that I know about it. It ain't going to be a backhanded thing where I'm sending somebody that claims to be a brother. I'm going to say, no, I'm going to confront you, and you're going to do the right thing, or I'm going to make you do the right thing. That's just how I am.
Yep. And so with the conversation today, when it talks about this, each one of these pastors that were in these trusted leadership positions, I don't know about all of them, but I would say the majority of them, at least, I know I can say, they were found guilty of sexual misconduct.
Yes.
But then the question then becomes, And I think this is the question that you were asking is how transparent now do we be with all these churches? Because this is what most people don't understand about the SBC. Is
and I think it should
we're not top down, we're bottom up.
And it should be 100% transparent.
Right. So should we just have like this? And so I think what people are asking is we had this list of all these abuse things, but all of us in the SBC, we didn't know about it.
But here's the thing, right? So why does it need to be transparent? Say the brother goes and does his time, brother, sister, whatever, does their time, and now wants to return to the church. Why does it need to be transparent?
Because people got to know.
But why?
For the safety and security of the church, because the church needs to know what's and so they can come alongside that person.
There you go. Yeah. So it's about safety of others, and so people can keep that other person that's coming back. Yes, accountable. We can restore you, and we're going to come alongside you. But there's boundaries now. Right. You've broken trust, and we have to set up these boundaries to protect the innocent. Right.
And because boundaries aren't bad. Boundaries aren't sinful. We talked about that in another episode.
Exactly.
Too.
No, exactly. And so it's just like, I'm trying to think of a sin that would be easier than sexual misconduct sin, but it's really hard to think of one.
Here's one. Okay, so someone... You hear sometimes of people who have the treasury role in the church and they swindle money.
Yes.
How about that one? That's a good one.
That's a good one. So I wouldn't put them alone with the church's money in a room by themselves.
You would never touch the money.
Just like if it was a sexual predator, right? Say we'll take the child predator out of it. We'll just say a sexual... in general. We'll just say had an affair. We'll go down that way. So we'll lessen it even more, right? Instead of dealing with the extreme, we'll lessen it more. Say somebody who had an affair. I would say, brother, I'm just letting you know, sister, I'm just letting you know, we got to put up safety nets for other people so that you don't fall in that same sin and they don't fall in that sin, and you're not allowed to be with the same or the opposite sex in the same room by yourself. It's a protection for you, and it's a protection for everybody to make sure that this doesn't happen again, right? And so those are the things. And it's the same with, we had that pastor in Warsaw, right? And did you hear about this? Yeah.
Yeah, I've been keeping up with that one.
So the pastor in Warsaw.
Which, for people who don't know, it's a community right outside of South Bend.
It's, then a half hour, 45-minute drive
45 minutes,
yeah. Who took advantage... consensually, but still wrong because she was a minor,
she
right?
Was 16.
That's what I'm saying. And it
didn't happen right away. It was, in my opinion, man, you groomed her for years.
It was gonna say it was predatorial,
100%,
in my opinion.
100%.
But that's just my opinion. I'm not God. I can't prove that, right?
Right.
But
and they haven't released everything yet in terms of the findings.
He had relations with a 16-year-old girl that lasted 9 years.
I don't remember how long.
I think I
honestly don't remember.
So
I
watched the whole confrontation, the church confrontation. Somebody videoed it, and I think it was 9. I think she said 9 years.
Yeah, it was a while, but either way. So in the video, keep going because I know where you're going with it.
So there should have never been a moment where this pastor would have been in a room by himself with a 16-year-old girl to take advantage of her. And I say take advantage because she's a minor, her brain is not fully developed, and pastors got some sway, right? Pastors have authority and power and sway to use for good or for evil. And he used it for evil. And he swayed her to have relationships with him that carried on. He was married, so he was having an affair. He was having an affair with a minor. He coerced a minor, and he carried on in it for 8 or 9 years or however long it was, 7 years. Well, I can't remember exactly how long, but a long time. And he should have never ever been in a room alone, right? That's protection, right? And you and I we've had this conversation a lot about how even texting a female in a thread by yourself is dangerous ground. Yep. Very dangerous ground.
That's why Beth has access to every one of my things.
Well, but even like, okay, as a youth pastor, right? And this is why I'm very skeptical and leery of chat groups. Because chat groups can lead to personal conversations that nobody knows about with the opposite sex and the youth leader. And it happens, obviously, a lot. We can read the report on how many youth leaders there were. So it happens a lot. And this is why the safeguard needs to be, no, I cannot be in a chat group. Like, I can be in a chat group off my wife's phone, so she has access to it 100% of the time. But it's easy for a guy, right, to be able to delete a message off his phone real quick and in a heartbeat. Nobody will ever know, right? guys are cynical like that and will figure things out that are just stupid. And so it's better not to even put yourself or put the other person, the female person or whoever, in harm's way by putting in a situation like that where those relationships can fester and grow into something that is unbiblical and sinful and harmful to the other person. And so I think he should have never, ever been in that position. He should have never allowed her to be in that position. And that all happened because he had sin in his heart and he found an opportunity and he took the opportunity, which was sickening in my opinion.
And so I had the article. It doesn't say how long, but it's more the fact of he stood up and said, I committed adultery for 20 years. I got no apologies. And she walked up and with her husband and said, or was it with her husband? I just said it with the main one.
He didn't say no apologies. He said no excuses.
No excuse. I have no defense. Yeah. I committed it. Say it plainly. I didn't make a mistake. I didn't have an issue. I didn't have an affair. I didn't make a misjudgment. I sinned. Well, that is an affair. But I need to say that, and you deserve to hear it. And then she walked up, basically like, no.
Let's get the story straight.
Let's get the story straight. Yeah. This was with a minor. This was rape. This was going on for years. I've been in prison for not 20 years, but 27 years. Like, so it happened 27 years ago, not just 20 years ago.
I don't think that was that long, was it?
Yeah, 27 years. She lived in a prison for 27 years, not 20. But it's the fact that he's like, oh, I just had an affair. And she was like, no, this wasn't an affair. This is with a minor. Like, this should be considered rape.
You destroyed her.
Right. And so it's the fact. And then the hard part is you see the church gather around the pastor of mourning the pastor, and she's up there like, no, I'm the victim here. Yeah, why are you like get this man out of here?
And then if you watch the congregation after she stepped down, they're all hugging her and like questioning, like, why did you do this? And then like the deacons are trying to act like, well, we got to come around. They're like, no, we don't want to hear from you. We want to hear from him directly. He can speak. He did this act by himself. He can speak by himself.
Right. And so they're still investigating it.
Yeah.
And that's not what we're here to talk about, but it's more just a simple fact of when grievous sins happen,
they need to be made known.
They need to be made, especially ones as important like this,
right. And not hidden and stuff, especially involving children or rape or murder, need to be brought to the authorities as soon as possible.
Right. And so, and with this report, those pastors, it was brought to the authority, but it's more the fact of the committee tried to keep it under wraps. Because the lawyers kept saying that they were, and this is where people get frustrated, because what they did was not necessarily illegal, but it was unethical and immoral and all these things.
So we want to, look at this, okay, because they did some stuff, right? And even us being part of the SBC, I had no idea that this was going, this kind of scandal. I was a pastor. This kind of scandal was going on. So I'm guessing that there needs to be a little bit of church discipline, in my opinion, of these guys, right? They didn't commit themselves to grievous sin, but they helped cover it up. But there still needs to be some accountability happening.
But again, the question, and this was the question that a lot of people have, is did they actually cover it up? Because all these people have had to face, they had to face the music.
But just like we said, it should have been made known.
Right.
Especially because some of these people were church bouncing, and they knew about it.
Yeah. And that's the thing. And they didn't handle the people's, in terms of the victims coming forward, they did not do their due diligence there. So it's more that they also failed in that regards too.
So
they wanted to save face.
What are the 5 purposes of church discipline? This comes from the Gospel Coalition, right? Okay. And I don't want to deal with the sexual predators, right? We're gonna move past them now. And now I want to deal with a little bit of those who,
like, let's go bigger picture,
who kind of hid it under their hat, right? Mm-hmm. That's what we'll say. We won't say cover up. We'll say hid it under their hat.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's a fair.
So what are the purposes of discipline when this is all going on? Which I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of reprimand or something for all of this, right? There's got to be something, and I'm guessing that's probably, we'll find out more. Or I'll find out more when Scott comes back.
Well, I don't think it's done.
It's not done, and
I'm guessing.
I don't know legally if anything's going to happen. But me as an SBC member, I expect something to be done in the SBC, and if it's not, then I personally would probably leave the SBC just because of it. But number 1, discipline aims to expose. Sin, like a cancer, loves to hide. Discipline exposes the cancer so that it might be cut out quickly. See 1 Corinthians 5:2. This is where it's like point blank. This is what I feel like the committee did, right? Personally, is that they hid something. They hid a sin, right? Though they didn't commit the sin, they hid the sin. And it's one of those things that, like they said, it should be exposed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Discipline aims to expose the sin. Number 2, discipline aims to warn, right? A church does not enact God's retribution through discipline. Rather, it stages a small play that pictures the great judgment to come. Discipline is a compassionate warning. That comes from 1 Corinthians 5:5. Number 3, discipline aims to save. Churches pursue discipline when they see a member taking the path toward death, and none of them are pleading and arm waving because causing the person to turn around. It's the device of last resort for bringing an individual to repentance. Now, as far as the executives, I don't know where they lie with all this, right? I don't know if they're like, I was totally justified and you guys don't have nothing, but.
No, the fact that there were some names on that list, like Johnny Hunt, who was still in leadership and these different things.
Right.
And again, it was more of accusations that weren't handled right. And so, again, those people have stepped down, but it's like for people like, I know Scott was a big Johnny Hunt fan. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I listened to a lot of Johnny Hunt. So yeah, I think that there is definitely some stuff.
So discipline aims to protect. Number 4, just as a cancer spreads from one cell to another, so sin quickly spreads from one person to another.
And I think this is where it failed. They didn't protect.
There was zero protection.
Correct. Right? This is it. Yeah.
So number 5, discipline aims to represent a good witness for Jesus, which again, I don't think that they did very well. Church discipline, strange to say, is actually good for non-Christians because it helps to preserve the attractive distinctiveness of God's people. Churches, remember, should be salt and light, but if the salt loses its saltiness, Jesus said, it is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled on by men, Matthew 5:13. So how can members...
This is the question.
How can members...
This is the magic question.
...of the SBC scandal respond now?
Mm-hmm.
And this... So a lot of this, it's like I pulled, right? Because it's like I'm kind of still processing it all myself. But this is from the Gospel Coalition again.
And this is their thoughts, right?
This is their thoughts. Okay. And then we'll go into a discussion and we'll close it out with our final thoughts on the whole scandal.
Sounds good to me.
Make it easy. So it says, today Southern Baptists are feeling many things: grief, pain, disgust, horror, shame, and rage. In other words, Southern Baptists are getting just a taste of what abuse victims have felt for decades as they suffered in silence, maligned and neglected by the ones who should have offered them help. Online, men and women from SBC churches are clearly horrified at what they've read. What can we do? Here are 4 recommendations for how Southern Baptists and all Christians can respond to this report. And I'm going to go through all 4 things that they say. 1, don't look away. In moments like these, we're all tempted to say, this doesn't pertain to me. We're tempted to ask, is that my problem? It's an echo of the excuse spoken east of Eden. Am I my brother's keeper? Genesis 4:9. The answer to the question was always yes. So much mistreatment and abuse has happened because Baptists refuse to look, refuse to learn, refuse to listen. Undoubtedly, this is painful. But as light pours into a dark place, don't shut your eyes or refuse to see. Educate yourself on the plight of the abuse. Read the report. Learn to help. Number 2, don't downplay it. Some will be tempted to say this is just a few bad apples or most of this was in the past. Humility requires us to honestly admit we have no clue how much of this continues now. This report, limited in scope, is the first words of abuse in our convention, not the last. More will come out. A similar scandal destroyed the witness and the reputation of the Roman Catholic Church. Page 58 of the report documents how Father Thomas Doyle wrote to the SBC leaders in March 2007. He expressed his concerns that the SBC leaders could be falling into some of the same patterns as the Catholic leaders in not dealing with clergy sex abuse. And he urged the Southern Baptists should learn from Catholic mistakes by taking action early on to implement structural reforms. Sadly, his warning was dismissed by SBC leaders. The priest responded that such reactions are standard for people in church leadership positions who tend to place the needs of the institution before the Christian obligations. We cannot continue to dismiss warnings. We must learn humility and stop pretending this is overblown. Number 3, don't be silent. We must listen and learn. We must also speak up. A source of clear pain throughout the report is often abuse victims stood alone as they fought for reforms. If we read this report and cannot find our voice, how are we any different from those in James 2:16 who say, be warned and filled, and then refuse to give food and clothing? Number 4, finally, don't walk away. The last point is directed to my Southern Baptist brothers and sisters rather than Christians at large. Many of you are likely ready to walk away at this point, but who are you walking away from? We now know that our leaders, our money, our institutions hurt people. Can we say with a clear conscience, I'm done? At this point, when justice cries out, dare we walk away? This is the hour to speak up, to refuse to yield, to fight for the justice and mercy God requires of us. To walk away from the SBC now is to walk away from victims. To walk away now is to walk away from our responsibility.
And that's the heavy part.
Right.
And, as I'm reading through this, it's the issue that we have with the executive committee doing what they did. And yeah, this was a guy who I pastored at an SBC church, and these were the people that I looked up to. Is the fact of they placed their own needs and the name. They wanted the name of the SBC to not go down, rather than say, no, we got problems and we're trying to take care of this.
Right.
And I find it really interesting because I actually didn't know about the Father Thomas Doyle that he wrote to the SBC. He goes, it's kind of one of those like he actually did the whole Matthew 18 thing where he's like, look, I'm going to you guys. Like this is the same thing.
I see the patterns.
And
that was 15 years ago.
And that's the fact. And I didn't even know that. And I was in the SBC,
Right.
And the fact of all this stuff was going on. And this is the crazy thing too, is when J.D. Greear became president, and he talked about this in one of the interviews with Russell Moore, they heard rumors as when J.D. Greear stopped. So let's dig into this a little bit more. So it really wasn't until, 2019, 2020, when this stuff started to be uncovered and unsurfaced and to figure out what's really going on.
Right.
And so I don't want to just say, oh, my heart goes out to the victims.
No.
But it does.
It does. And
it does.
And now's the time to speak up and voice your concerns to your leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're the messengers that go to the SBC.
Right. And this is the other thing, too. The beautiful thing about the SBC is any person in the SBC is also a messenger, too. So, like, our church sends messengers. We send a certain amount of messengers.
Yes.
We send both pastors, which I never went to the SBC convention.
Sure.
I was always back at the church doing the church thing while Scott went, and normally the other messengers were actually just members of the church.
Right.
To be honest with you. And so the messengers, our role is to stand up, speak up, which, to our credit, that's who called for this.
Right.
The people who called for, no, let's spend millions on this whole investigation. Those were the messengers that called for it.
At this point, we can't do anything about the past.
Nope.
But we need to put protections in place today to protect for the predators that are still out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to be there for the victims.
Right. And so, this would be my call, right? Because I'm no longer in a pastoral role, and you're not in a pastoral role. We're just laymen, lay elders who love the church. We love our pastors. We love our people. We love our kids. And as a parent of a kid who has suffered trauma and abuse, and I don't want to say sexual abuse, but more because that's I don't believe true, but more just the fact of my kids come out of the foster care system where like drug abuse, like they had to deal with that, watching the trauma of that. Having to watch my kids deal with some of this, I can't imagine what it's like to be the person going through that.
Right.
And I think for us as a church, we need to wake up and realize that although we, as Christians, are called to trust one another, we're a family, yes, we do this, boundaries are okay, boundaries are safe, boundaries are good.
Yes.
And there's certain things that we can do, simple things, like literally as simple as putting security cameras and have round-the-clock recording.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Easy.
Like, that's good. It's easy.
Done.
It's easy. It costs money, sure, but
who cares?
But it's like, oh, well, that's going to cost us $1,000 to install the system.
And how many people is it going to help protect?
And how many people does it take for us to do this? It's kind of the same with school shootings.
How
how many people have to die before we do something?
How valuable is a life?
Exactly. And the answer is invaluable.
More than more than 1,000,
Right.
More than 1,000,000, more than 1,000,000,000, more than 1,000,000,000,000. I mean,
right. And the job of the pastor is to be the shepherd, the protector, the protect it from the wolves.
And unfortunately, the pastors are the ones that are the wolves in sheep's clothing right now.
That's the scary
That's the
reality. And that's why I think this is a call where I think it's not for pastors to figure it out, but for lay people to call on their leaders and their pastors to do something.
Well,
and this is why
hold their pastors accountable.
Exactly. And this is why I actually loved people like in our church, and I'll say names, like this is why I loved people like Aaron Fairchild and for Dan Birch and at Southside specifically, who that's their number one priority. And I loved calling them brothers, and they were part of, like, I met with them all the time to go like, what can we do better? What can we do better? What can we do to make sure our kids are protected physically, spiritually, and emotionally, all these different things. And goodness gracious, now's the time for us as lay people to look up to our elders and our leaders and our pastors and say, we need to change things inside the church to protect our kids. Because not just our kids, it's my kids, it's your kids.
Well, not just kids, though. A lot of these people weren't kids. A lot of these people were just, it was all sorts of stuff. I don't know if you've read the report, but I've gone through as much as I can stomach going through them. And it's just all sorts of
it's awful
stuff. It's just,
and a lot of it stems from the abuse of power, and because spiritual matters easily flip to emotional, and if a pastor is not prepared to put the boundary in place, then it's not good.
Yeah,
and that's where it honestly gets. This is where pastoral ministry that no one knows unless you've sat in that seat. I mean, I know you know it. I know you get it. Is sitting in that pastoral seat's very hard, because we're dealing with, as a pastor, you're dealing with spiritual hurt, you're dealing with guidance and counseling and relationship building and loving people and trying to do the best for people. And sadly, I believe that I hope to believe that most of these pastors that became pastors did it for the right reasons. But should be a warning sign to all of us to know that this could happen to any one of us if we let our guard down.
So
I'm just processing this out loud. If this is something that we need to watch out for ourselves personally,
sure.
But then also we need to hold people up to account for what they did, and we got to change some things.
So if you're a person who is a victim or knows a victim of what's gone on in the SBC, or really frankly any type of sexual abuse or anything like that, reach out to us. We can help put you guys in contact with some good resources, some good counseling. We will do the research and the time to put in to help whoever we need to help in this time. If you're near us, we will gladly sit down with you and just be there with you. Drink a cup of coffee, hear your story, listen to you, try to encourage you, and just be here with you through these times. We don't want anybody to feel like they're alone. I know, as far as Southside, and I'm sure same way at New Life, our leadership team is already looking at what changes do we need to make sure we're more protected as not just a leadership team, but as a congregation as a whole. And I'm sure New Life is probably doing something very similar. Mm-hmm. I think it causes a lot of churches that are good churches in the SBC. I don't want to downplay the SBC, right? The congregations that make up the SBC, there's a lot of good congregations, and
this
I'm not trying to
dismiss thing with
it.
the SBC, right?
Yeah, and I'm not trying to dismiss of what happens, but
no, not at all.
I think this gives a lot of pause and reflect time for a lot of the churches that make up the SBC to look at and go, "Wow, we need to be better. We need to be better, and we've made mistakes." And how do we come back from this, and how do we help the victims of this, right? Whether they're in our own congregation or in another congregation, how can we help? That's all I got to say, my friend.
Yeah, man. I had a thought, and I was just listening to you speak, and at the end of the day, this is not okay, and I think we need to call a spade a spade.
Yeah,
and say this is not okay, and not just say, screw it, we're going to walk away. Because I've heard so many people's testimonies, including people from my own youth group, from my own church, who say, I'm done with this God thing because look at all you Christians. And I want to encourage the person listening right now who's on that fence of, I'm not sure if I want to believe in God or not. At the end of the day, we're not called to follow people. We're called to follow Jesus.
Right.
And these people who did the wrong things and sinned blatantly with their it was designed to hurt people or not, it doesn't matter. Sin is sin. Gotta call a spade a spade. You know, in my opinion, is that a reason to walk away from the faith and say, well, if this is what Christianity is, I want no part of it? I would say no, because that's not Christianity.
Yeah.
That's sinful people doing sinful things.
Now, there may be some that want to walk away from the SBC, and that's totally your choice. And like I said, I expect reform to happen.
Right.
And if it doesn't happen, then I question my role in the SBC myself.
Now, there's a lot more going on with the SBC and the convention, to be honest with you, that people are not so sure about. But, you know, it's more the fact of if someone's going to walk away and say, well, if all these pastors could do this, I want nothing to do with it. It's more the fact of these are sinners, and this is not what the church was designed for. But, you know, and there's sinners everywhere, no matter where you go.
There's sinners in every church, and you and I are sinners, and it's saved by grace, right, through faith.
Yep. And it's not an excuse for what they did. It's a cold-hearted reality of
we have to find a way. We have to find a way to forgive. One, we have to, and the forgiveness is not for them; it's for us, right? It's to keep bitterness and hatred from growing into our hearts, but it is difficult, and forgiving doesn't mean forgetting or putting safeguards down, right? We can still put safeguards up.
We have to,
and we need to, right? Exactly,
it's a wise thing to do,
and we need to continue to reform the way we do things so that we are more Christ-like than we were yesterday.
I think that's a good place to put it right there. I think that's it, is we're constantly pursuing Jesus, and the goal is one step at a time.
Right.
You know? Yep. So I think that's a good way to end it. So should we do some fun facts with Fuller to try to end this sobering conversation?
These conversations are so hard to jump into fun facts.
But the other deal is they're not fun, but they're needed.
Yes, they are.
They're required,
and that's what the whole purpose of Real Talk Christian Podcast is for, is to have the real conversations, the conversations that people don't want to have, right? And this is one that it's a hard conversation for Mark and I to have because we're still processing through it ourselves. I mean, we're still part of it. We're in the thick of it. Now, we may not have the congregation that is in the thick of it, but we feel for the victims. And I feel for those churches. I really do. And it's like, I don't know how to even help them at this point right now.
The hard part, and this person's name wasn't in the report, but stuff that came out with the former SBC leader, Paige Patterson. I mean, he was the president of the seminary I was at.
Yeah.
I read his books. I took his classes.
Right.
You know, and so this is hard on my heart. To sit and know that there were so many people that were hurt and couldn't find the help that they wanted.
My heart breaks. My heart truly does break over all this.
So we can do better, and we need to do better, and we should do better. Exactly. I mean, that's a good way to end it, huh?
Yeah,
and pray for God for mercy.
Yeah.
And for the grace that we need to get through it.
Yep.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Let's do some fun facts, my friend.
Time for Fun Facts with Fuller.
I will say that laugh always makes me feel better.
It does makes me smile and think of my babies.
Every time, man. I love it, bro. Bro, what's the fun fact to land the plane officially, my friend?
Speaking of babies, did you know that a newborn baby is more than 3/4 water? You remember from grade school that all humans are made up of mostly water, but never more so than right after we're born. Newborn babies are 78% water, according to NASA, while adults drop down to about 55% to 60% water.
Is that why babies are so squishy?
That's why
babies so squishy? You know, that might make sense. Beth, that might make sense for Nora, because when you look at pictures of Nora, you're like, man, that girl was a walking Tootsie Roll, but she only weighed a half a pound.
Well, you know,
she was a lightweight Tootsie Roll. And then you look at like Lucy, and you pick her up, and like Lucy looks little, but girl is solid.
Right.
And then you pick up like Evie, and she's just fluffy.
But that's why they all roly-poly and squishy.
Roly-poly and squishy because they're full of water. That's fascinating, though. Yeah, I knew we were mostly water, but 78%.
Yeah, they're 18% more water than what we are.
That's a fun fact. Did you know that your nose and your ears never stop growing?
I did know that, actually.
I feel bad for some people that got big old noses and big old ears. They just never stop.
Are you talking about me?
Anyways, that was just a blanket statement, my friend.
Though this was a hard conversation, thank you for joining us today on Real Talk Christian Podcast. Go check us out on all the social medias, the Facebook, the Twitter.
The Twitter?
The Twitter,
Twitter?
The Twitter, the Instagram, YouTube. go ahead and go there, subscribe, hit the bell notification, so every time we're on, you guys are notified.
Yep, go ahead. Keep going. I cut you off, homie. I thought we were going to transition.
This is your whole thing, man. I just like to say it.
I was going to say, if you want to learn more about me and Fuller and the show, go to realtalkchristianpodcast.com. There you can find the contact form to leave a question for us to answer on the show. And if you want to be part of a faith community online, again, we're not a church. We ain't the local church, but it's a really fun RTC Facebook community that we got going on right now, man.
Easiest way to get there is to go to our RTC Facebook page, go to groups, and you'll see it right there, the community. Click on it, answer a couple questions, and join in on the conversation.
If you answer the questions, you're automatically in. No question, you're automatically in.
That's easy.
You can jump right in there. We post, videos that are just in that group or text messages.
My little lion pictures.
That was really funny. But guys,
it's true, though.
I love it. But if you listen over an Apple Podcast, leave us a rating and review over there. Spotify, leave a rating. We have over 300 reviews on ratings on Spotify, over 100 on Apple Podcasts, and every single one helps us get into the ears of more listeners just like you.
Yep.
Anything else we got to tell before we let the people go?
No, sir.
I love it, guys. We love you. Thanks again for hanging out with us. And until next time,
take it easy.